right, there we go. Hello.
So, are you able to see my screen? Is it showing that?
No.
Okay, now is it showing that?
Yes.
Yes.
Let me figure. Nope, this is not the right screen.
There you
Yes,
go.
okay, this is the correct screen. While we're waiting, I'm gonna go ahead and have you join this link here
Okay.
and then put this password in. There does not have to be a space in between the letters. There can be, it doesn't matter. I will say mine might be a little bit different. I'm a sixth grade teacher, so for my lesson plan, I'm not doing a read aloud. We're going to be looking at two different types of text by the same author, but they're written in different formats.
Okay.
And I can see one of you has logged in. Can you see my screen, Catherine?
I can.
If you'll log in, go to this website, joinpd.com, and then if you'll type these letters in, you don't have to have a space in between them, but you can.
Okay.
Right, I see two. I'm gonna go ahead and start it. The code is up in the top corner. It's always going to be there in case you ever get logged out. And I am going to go back to this presentation a couple different times. So if you kept it open, it would be helpful to you later on. So in this slideshow, just to get started, what are some different genres that you are familiar with and enjoy reading?
Historical fiction.
Okay, that one's my favorite too. What else?
Romance. Oh,
Sorry.
fantasy.
Okay, romance, fantasy. Those are good. For this lesson today, this is an extra activity that I would have students do if we had extra time. And it's just, you click it and it's a spinner wheel. And then it kind of chooses for you what you could read next to kind of get them out of their comfort zone. But for this lesson, we're going to specifically look at fiction versus nonfiction and historical fiction versus nonfiction. So some different types would be science fiction. And this has a futuristic setting, or it might have space and technology or some kind of advancements. than what we currently have. There's traditional fairy tales or traditional literature, and it encompasses a whole lot of different subgenres like fairy tales and folk tales. And some of the commonalities in this is that it has some kind of magical element to it, and it is used to teach lessons or a moral. There's horror, and it's supposed to make you fearful or anxiety, and it could be real life, but it could also be things that are made up like ghosts or vampires. Then you've got fantasy. Fantasy is similar to traditional literature and fairy tales, but it is a little bit different. It might have that magical or mythical creature aspect to it. It's also things that probably aren't going to happen in real life, like talking animals. Realistic fiction, this is one that a lot of my students like to read. They love The Diary of a Wimpy Kid. That's one of their favorite things to do. And this is real life characters facing real life problems, and it could happen, but it's fake. Historical fiction, and this is one we're going to really look at in our activity today. It takes place in a historical time period, or it's a historical event, and the characters could be real, but they could also be fake. It's set in the past, but it feels like it's realistic. One of the things that would make it historical fiction instead of a true story might be made up dialogue. And then to go along with that is nonfiction. Nonfiction is completely different from fiction. I think of it as not fake, so it's a real story. It might be an autobiography, and some characteristics of it would be maybe a graph and a chart. There might be a picture, or I'm going blank here. There's photographs, there's pictures, there might be a timeline on it, or there might be even headings and subheadings and bolded words. At the end, there could be a glossary or an index as well. And then some examples of nonfiction. There's more than this, but a few examples would be things like biographies, which is written by someone about someone else, or an autobiography written by someone about themselves. You have mythology. Some people categorize this as traditional literature, or it could be on its own. A lot of people associate mythology with Greek and Roman. Those are some of the more common, but there are others like Irish mythology. And then there's mystery. I think of Nancy Drews and Hank the Cowdog. There's some kind of a puzzle or a crime that you have to solve, and it could be suspenseful. It might even be like a murder mystery. Poetry. Poetry is a lot of different things. It could be arranged in rhyming words, but it doesn't have to. But the important thing of poetry is it trying to evoke emotions or getting the audience to think. And the last one that I have here is adventure. Adventure is somebody going on a journey or a quest to do something, and they might be trying to survive or overcome some kind of dangerous risk. While you have this up, you can use this to help you with this next part. And I really hope, okay, here we go. I have a Blooket. I've got a 3-minute timer on the Blooket, and it's all about just a quick little review over different types of genre. So let's see if it will let me in. Okay, there's the website, blooket.com. And then I've got the code up here in the top, or you could scan the QR code in the top left corner as well. Right, waiting for one more. Okay. This one is a more gentle Blooket. It's not one of the cutthroat ones where you're trying to steal from people. For an activity like this with students, I would tell them definitely look back at notes and don't do it all just from memory. This is just kind of a chance for you to practice it a little bit. Just for the sake of time, I am gonna end it. With a class, I normally would have it go on for a while. And then for the top leaderboard, we would, I usually like to look at the report too. It tells me how many players there were, it tells me what was correct and what was incorrect, and then it gives me the scores for people. So that for my own personal interest and for data, I go back in and I look at that kind of thing. So just by thinking about this review, this quick review, what are some differences between fiction and nonfiction?
Fiction is fake or made up, make believe, and nonfiction is true or factual.
Okay. Anybody else?
You can find facts about nonfiction.
Okay, good. And if you're trying to determine the difference between fiction and nonfiction, what are some key characteristics of either fiction or nonfiction?
Fiction has make-believe characters.
Okay,
Or a plot in a setting.
okay, good. What about nonfiction? What would be some tip-offs that you're looking at a nonfiction piece?
Photographs,
Okay,
charts, diagrams.
Table of contents.
good.
Glossary.
Good. So I've got two different things. This first one, it's called Summer of Blood, but it's the same story as Lauren Tarshiss's I Survived the Shark Attacks of 1916. They're both written by her. It's the same story, but the first one is on a Scope magazine, and this is not going up. How do I get this out of the way? Okay, I can't get the bar out of the way to click my tab.
Can you just grab your screen and pull it down? That's what I had
Okay.
to do. I had the same problem.
Okay, so here's the first one. Just by looking at it, you notice you've got this graphic here. You've got some information here. You've got a photograph. And if I keep going through it, it's going to take a minute to load, isn't it? What would you guess the genre of this story would be? Is it fiction or is it nonfiction?
I would guess nonfiction because one of the words that grabbed me on that cover story was the word true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
gonna
so
say
that
the
would be a
same thing.
good indicator. Let me find it. Story. Okay, there we go. So now as we're looking, this one gives a little bit more detail. You're seeing some larger words, bolded words. Here's a word that's bolded. Here's a heading or subheading, photograph, a caption. This makes it pretty clear. For sure, what can we say this genre is?
Nonfiction.
Nonfiction. This one is a little bit different, but for sixth grade, this is something that we do talk about and we have to cover. It's narrative nonfiction, where it does read similar to a fictional story. It's got a plot and it's got setting, but it also has all of the traditional elements of nonfiction. So it uses those literary techniques. So as you're reading it, it will tell you, it will have some dialogue in there, but she tried to get it as close as possible. And when you look at videos of her, which you can see in this, and resources, I would go through and I would show them the video of this, and then we might read it together. But it will have dialogue. Then you look at this other one. This is the book. This is I Survived book. It came out last year. And if I look through this, what do I have here? Can you see my mouse?
A chapter.
The chapter. There are nonfiction that can have chapters, so that might not be a tip-off. What are you not seeing in this one?
Photographs.
Okay, there's no photographs. What else do we not see anything of?
Captions.
No captions. There is a picture here, but can other books have pictures and not be nonfiction?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, what about do we see any timelines?
No, or there's no headings necessarily
headings.
within the text.
No
Mhm.
subheadings either. What about any diagrams or any graphics like that that are labeled, anything like that?
No
No.
vocabulary words.
No vocabulary, nothing that's bolded. Would I find a table of contents in both fiction and nonfiction?
Sometimes.
Sometimes. What about a glossary? Am I going to find a glossary in a book similar to this?
Not normally, no.
No.
So even though this book is written by the same author, it's the same story, you can tell it from different perspectives. The Scope magazine, this one's a narrative nonfiction. She's going to give you just the facts. On the book that she's written, it's still factual. She still gives you more information about it, but it's it's fictional. She's created some of the characters in the book. They're not real characters. And she's created most of the dialogue, although she tried to make it authentic. So what we're going to do now is go back to the presentation here. And you should be able to see a little text bar at the bottom of it. Do you see the text bar?
Mhm.
Okay. In my traditional classroom, I would make this a whole writing activity. We would go through and we would read it, but I don't have the same class time that I normally would. So we would talk about elements of writing. I would give them sentence stems and sentence starters, and I would give them time to plan out information and to write it out. But for the sake of time, the question is, what are some key elements of both genres, fiction and nonfiction? If you would answer elements of fiction in one sentence and elements of nonfiction in another sentence. There is no submit button. It automatically goes through.
I got booted out, so.
The password is up here,
Okay.
and the web address is joinpd.com.
Okay.
As you're finishing up that question, based off of the two examples that we saw, Was it easy or was it difficult to tell which was fiction and nonfiction?
It was easy.
Okay, what were some of the characteristics of the nonfiction that made it easier for you to see?
The captions and the vocabulary words, the bolded words.
Okay. And then what are some key elements that you would find in a fake story?
Character, a plot, the problem and solution, the setting.
Hmm. I can lock responses, I can show them and hide them. It is anonymous, which I like for 6th grade students. That way they don't worry about who it is. So differences, facts made up of information, or yes, facts versus made up information. Elements of nonfiction can include pictures, graphs, charts, and glossaries. Good.
That was for
Fictional has characters, plot, setting, problem, and solution. Good. And then elements of fiction include made up characters, fictional plot, and setting. Hey, very good. And then lastly, I have never tried this before. I'm really hoping it works. It is a link to a genre quiz. Are you able to click the link?
Oh gosh.
I got kicked out. Hold on. Um,
I need permission.
Okay. Okay, let me see what I can do about that.
Hmm.
Okay.
Go to your plus sign at the top. Right, it has the plus sign. And then where it has the little 9 dots, the little 9 squares. Go down right there. See if you can go to forms and find your form. Right there. I think you passed it.
Is it?
Right. Where it says forms.
It's like a
Is it-
purple.
Is it a form?
Wait, hold on.
Go down more.
Oh, okay, I
Right.
see it. I see it. All these little cubes are in the way.
Okay, and then open up the one that's the test.
It's this one.
And then click send. Yeah, settings, and then where it says it should give you the opportunity to let anyone. Let me make my screen bigger. Go to the embedded link.
Or those, yeah, the 3 dots might be
Yes.
share. Oh no.
Go back to where you were in the forms. I would X off of that one. Just that one. And then where it says send, on the part where it says send, go to the embedded link. The little paperclip looking
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
Okay, no. That should. See, go to the other one then. Try the other one. That one, the little arrows one. It should give you the opportunity to share with everyone. Click cancel. Settings, okay, scroll down.
Was the original link that you used, did you grab it from that little paperclip thing?
I grabbed it from the activity that I made in Seesaw that I've had students use before.
Okay, because if you change out, if you copy that code and somehow re-give us that one, it should work, because that's how I normally share mine.
Okay, which way? This one?
Yes.
Mm.
So if you go into your address bar and yeah, just copy. Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so now let me go back over here and then into the inbox. Apply all. That does not look right. Okay, that looks right. Yep, okay. Let's try that. Let's see if that works.
Very good.
Hmm.
Did it go through? Okay, I'll just read it out loud then, and I'll go through some of it. What is a story of a real person's life written by that person? And again, I would have you go back to the notes. You can look at the notes and then answer the questions off of it.
Autobiography.
I'll go
Autobiography. This one, I do have additional notes for this one. What are some elements of poetry? Select 3.
Uses
Has
rhyme.
rhythm,
Good. Rhythm and,
meaning, and
Repetition.
emotion, and or emotion.
okay, what would classify a text as fantasy?
The last one?
Story that can't happen in real life. It's got talking animals, magic, other qualities like that. Traditional literature. Which of these 3 would be considered traditional literature?
Fairy tales, folklores, and
folklore,
fables.
Good. What's the correct definition of realistic fiction?
A story that uses made-up characters but could happen in real life.
Good.
Mhm.
Time machines, advanced science, advanced technology, and space travel are examples of what genre?
Science fiction.
Good. And then I'll go through a couple of these. What is informational text?
Information that
And that
covers a
covers a
variety
variety
of
of
topics.
topics.
It has to be
And
true.
is true. Yes, it has to be true. And the last one, historical fiction. What is historical fiction?
It's a made-up story
Made
set in a
story set in a
specific time.
specific time period.
Okay, good. So then I would go through, I look at the responses, and then I would gather this kind of data and figure out what we need to hit harder and what we need to have deeper lessons over. And then I've got a couple of questions left. At the end, I would ask you to discuss which of those 2 genres do you like most. Do you enjoy reading nonfiction or do you enjoy reading fictional stories?
I like both. It's hard
Me
to pick
too.
which is my favorite because they're both so different and have different qualities and uniqueness that I enjoy both.
Okay.
Me too.
Okay. As you are reading either fiction or nonfiction, is there something that's difficult about it? And if there is, what would make it easier for you to be able to read it?
I think of science fiction just off the top of my head. That's the least genre that I read, probably because sometimes the terminology or just the advanced thinking or language maybe is difficult or sometimes far-fetched in my head to wrap around. So what would make it easier? That's a great question. I guess I always bring it kind of back to the characters, right? If you have a good character and it's developed really well, and I'm hooked on the character and what they're doing, I guess maybe all that extra technology or science fiction jargon doesn't muddle things up as much.
That's good. Yeah, that's good. That makes sense. Anybody else want to share? You don't have to. Don't feel pressured.
So I'm gonna be honest, like I will read nonfiction, obviously,
But like on my own time, I prefer fiction. I think it's just because like with fictional, you get like an escape. Like I read fictional books with a happy ending because I don't want to be sad at the end. And when stories are true, a lot of them a lot of them are sad. I don't really know how to fix that. I will say I really did like Lorena, right?
Yes.
Okay. I really did like learning about the color blue. So maybe I just need to find the right kind of nonfiction.
Okay,
And so, yeah, maybe I just need to
Good.
look better.
Right. Different formats can create
Yes, exactly.
and there's
different-
all different types. There's all different types of nonfiction books. I didn't like them very much either until I started trying to find ones that made me happy and that did kind of have some joy to them, weren't all sad.
Yeah.
If I had other time or there were kids who finished something really fast, the two things that I would do differently to extend, I would put them in partners and I would send them through the library for a specific genre, and then I would have them make their own kind of 3-slide presentation about that genre and different characteristics of it. And then the second idea would be at the beginning of this presentation, I'd have them click on that wheel to figure out what genre they should read next. And it's really simple. All they have to do is just click. And then it would say, you need to read an action book. And then I'd send them on their merry way to go find an action book and check it out.
It's cute.
So, are there any questions?
Nope.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for bearing with me.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Good job.
Thank you. How do I?
Thank you guys.
Thank you.